I want you to picture something. Like, really put yourself in this scenario.
Okay.
You were sitting across the dinner table from someone you know incredibly well. A sibling, a partner, or, an old friend.
Right.
You're laughing, reminiscing, and you bring up a shared event from years ago. Maybe it's a family vacation or a crazy night out in college.
We all have those stories.
Exactly. You start telling the story, and suddenly they stop you. They look right at you and say, "That is not how that happened."
Oh, man.
And suddenly you are fiercely arguing over the details. I mean, you are 100% certain it rained that day. They are 100% certain it was sunny.
Yeah, totally opposite memories.
Right. You both have incredibly vivid details. You can practically feel the rain on your skin.
Yeah.
And they can see the sun glaring off the pavement. But the stories completely contradict each other.
It is a universally frustrating experience. Both of you walk away quietly thinking the other person is either completely in denial or, actively trying to rewrite history to suit their own narrative.
Which is wild.
It is, but the truth is actually much stranger than that. And it has to do with the fundamental architecture of the human brain.
Welcome, listeners, to another My Mind MashUps deep dive, where we unravel mysteries, spark curiosity, and make sense of complex ideas together. Today, we are diving deep into the absolute strangeness of human memory.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. Our mission today is all about sparking curiosity, challenging assumptions, and expanding understanding regarding how our brains actually store our past.
And we've got a stack of cognitive psychology research to back this up.
Yeah, covering decades of studies, straight up the recent findings. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy content that makes you think.
And we really do need to think about the assumptions we make every day, because the core scientific truth running through this research completely shatters how most of us assume our minds operate.
How so?
Well, the big reveal here is that human memory is not a video camera. It is not recording raw footage, saving it to a hard drive, and then just hitting play when you want to look back. Memory is reconstructive.
Reconstructive?
Yes. Every single time you remember something, you are actually rebuilding that event from scratch.
Yeah.
You are patching it together using stored details, the general mood of the moment, and crucially, whatever new information you've learned since the event originally happened.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if I'm not just hitting play on a mental video, if I'm actively rebuilding the scene every time, that means the memory itself is highly vulnerable.
It is.
I mean, it means the past isn't a locked vault. Right.
Precisely. And to understand how vulnerable it is, we should look at the concept of the misinformation effect, which explores what happens when entirely new information sneaks into an old memory.
Like it leaks in.
Exactly. There's a classic study from the late 70s where participants watched a sequence of slides showing an auto pedestrian accident. Basically, a car hits a person at an intersection. Simple enough.
Right.
But afterward, the researchers casually gave some of the participants misleading post-event information. During a questionnaire, they might subtly refer to a stop sign at the intersection when the slide actually showed a yield sign.
So just slipping it into the conversation, not aggressively challenging them, just framing a question around a false premise.
Yes, and the mechanism at play here is what makes it so fascinating. That misleading information didn't just confuse the participants, it actively integrated into their recall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when tested later, they didn't just guess wrong. Their brains took the suggestion of the stop sign and painted it right over the yield sign in their mental reconstruction of the event.
That is wild.
And before anyone assumes modern brains are too savvy for this, a very recent online replication study proved this still happens today. They tested people with misleading traffic sign info provided by a supposed cow witness and found the exact same effect.
So it's not about being gullible. It's a structural vulnerability.
Yeah.
I was trying to visualize how a solid memory can just absorb new data like that, and I keep thinking of Wikipedia.
Oh, Wikipedia. That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, our memories aren't printed encyclopedias sitting on a dusty shelf where the ink is dry. They're like Wikipedia pages. Whenever you recall an event, that specific page in your brain goes into edit mode.
That is a brilliant analogy, and the biology actually backs up your Wikipedia idea perfectly. There's a mechanism researchers call reconsolidation-style updating.
Reconsolidation-style updating. What does that mean exactly?
Well, in simple terms, when you form a memory, it consolidates, like it stabilizes in your brain. But researchers found that if you give someone a subtle reminder of that past event, just enough to activate the memory, it temporarily destabilizes.
Wait, so it unsaves?
Exactly. It goes back into this malleable, almost molten state. While it's in that active edit mode, your brain is highly receptive to new information, which then binds to the original memory trace when it cools down and reconsolidates.
So just by pulling the file open, I run the risk of saving over it with whatever's happening around me in the present moment.
You do.
But that begs a massive question. Why would evolution build such a flimsy system? I mean, if memory is a Wikipedia page, why aren't those pages locked down? Why does the brain allow the past to be edited so easily?
Because the brain is an incredibly efficient survival engine. It prioritizes meaning over literal, pixel-perfect details. It cares about the gist or the theme of what happened rather than high-resolution recording of the room.
Because that would take too much energy.
Right. If our ancestors had to memorize every single blade of grass to remember that a lion hides in tall grass, their brains would be overloaded. The brain extracts the pattern, saves the pattern, and throws away the excess data.
Makes sense.
We see this cognitive shortcut clearly in lab setups where they test pattern recognition.
Okay, let's test that out. If I'm a participant in one of these setups, what am I actually doing?
So you are sitting in a room, and a researcher reads you a list of words. The words might be bed, night, tired, blanket, dark, dream, snore.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm studying them.
Right. Later on, you are given a memory test. The researcher asks, did you see the word apple?
And I say no.
Right, but then they ask, did you see the word sleep?
Oh, and because my brain has been extracting the pattern of all those bedtime words, I'm going to say yes. Even though sleep wasn't actually on the list.
Overwhelmingly, yes. People will confidently swear they heard or saw the word sleep. The brain captured the semantic theme, the overarching concept of the list. When asked to recall the details, it reconstructs the event based on that theme and fills in the most logical missing piece.
It creates a memory of a word that was never there just to save cognitive load.
Exactly. And the scary part is how confidence scales with this process. A study looked at something called conceptual elaboration.
Conceptual elaboration, meaning the more I think about a concept, the more real it becomes.
Essentially, yeah. They found that when we repeatedly dwell on the meaning and implications of a suggested event, we dramatically increase our chances of forming a high-confidence false memory.
Like what kind of event?
Like if someone suggests to you that you got lost in a mall as a child, and you spend time visualizing that mall, thinking about how scared you would have felt, trying to picture the security guard.
They're just building it.
Exactly. Your brain is actively building the neural pathways of that false memory. You are doing the architectural work of making it real.
Okay, I have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who is thinking about a core defining memory right now. Because I understand the word list trick. But what if I feel the memory?
What do you mean?
Like, what if the vividness is just overwhelming? If I can smell the perfume my grandmother wore, if I can hear the exact tone of a friend's voice during an argument, surely that level of emotional, vivid detail means it is an unedited recording. You can't fake that kind of visceral clarity, right?
What's fascinating here is that the science tells us a very different story. One of the most critical takeaways from cognitive psychology is that confidence, vividness, and emotional clarity are absolutely not the same thing as accuracy.
Wait, really?
Yeah. From the inside, a reconstructed false memory feels identical to a perfectly accurate one. The subjective feeling of remembering is generated by the brain as a tag. It's a way of saying, this is a past event.
I see.
But just because an experience carries that emotional tag doesn't mean it happened exactly that way. Repetition, reflection, and emotion give stories incredible authority, but they do not automatically make them true.
That is a really tough pill to swallow. Just because I feel it deeply doesn't mean it's factually accurate. It just means my brain did a really masterful job at building the reconstruction. If this is resonating, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive.
It is a profound realization, and once you accept that your brain holds onto the gist and confidently fills in the blanks to save energy, you start to see how this internal survival mechanism becomes a massive vulnerability.
Especially when we step out into the modern world. Because we aren't just sitting in sterile labs listening to word lists about blankets and beds. We are navigating a society overflowing with conflicting information, social media, and endless conversations. Which brings us to a major glitch in the system: source confusion.
Yes, the source monitoring framework.
Yeah.
This concept explains that we don't just store information, our brains also have to tag where that information came from.
Right.
So when you try to recall a detail, your brain has to make a split-second judgment. Did I actually see this happen with my own eyes? Did I infer it based on logic? Did I dream it? Or did I just hear a coworker mention it 3 weeks ago?
Here's where it gets really interesting, because you can think of source monitoring like keeping the receipt for a piece of information. When you buy a TV, you have the physical TV, you have the printed receipt showing exactly what store you bought it from.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. In our brains, the memory itself is the TV. But over time, our brains are notorious for throwing away the receipt.
And returning to our earlier point about efficiency, the brain throws away the receipt to save cognitive space. Keeping the information is useful, but keeping a massive, complex filing system of exactly where and when you learned every single piece of information is exhausting.
So the receipt just degrades.
Exactly. You still have the memory, it feels entirely real, but you have zero proof of origin. You forget if you acquired it firsthand, or if it was handed to you by a friend's embellished story years later.
And that lost receipt dynamic feels incredibly dangerous right now. I mean, if my brain can't tell the difference between something I saw and something I just read a convincing tweet about, then misinformation isn't just about tricking my beliefs.
Right.
It can actually trick my memories.
That is exactly what a massive study demonstrated during the COVID-19 pandemic. They tested thousands of participants, showing them fabricated news stories about the crisis. Now, they weren't just measuring if people believed the fake news was real.
What were they looking for then?
They were measuring if the fake news could actually alter episodic memory.
Meaning, did people start remembering events that never happened?
Yes. Exposing people to fabricated news stories successfully generated false memories. Participants didn't just say, "Oh, I believe this article." They looked at the fabricated events and said, "I remember seeing that happen."
Oh.
Their brains took the vivid fake news, lost the source receipt, and integrated the false narrative seamlessly into their own autobiographical memory of the pandemic.
That is staggering. And it makes you wonder how we even begin to clean up that kind of mess. If a piece of fake news has already woven itself into my memory network, you can't just delete it.
Untangling it requires immense precision. A recent study explored how we correct fake news, specifically testing whether it's better to give someone a partial reminder of the false claim before debunking it, or a complete reminder.
What's the difference in how the brain handles those?
It comes down to how deeply the false memory has taken root. If the false memory of the fake news is relatively weak, a partial reminder is much better for correcting it.
Because if you repeat the whole thing,
you run the risk of accidentally strengthening the false information through repetition, basically conceptual elaboration all over again.
oh, right.
But if the false memory is deeply entrenched, a complete reminder performs better to effectively target and overwrite the entire neural pathway. It proves that modern misinformation actively hijacks memory networks. Simply yelling, "Hey, that's fake," doesn't magically undo the biological reconstruction that has already occurred.
Hearing all of this, hearing that an internet rumor or a poorly fact-checked article can literally integrate into my actual memories of the world, it makes you feel paranoid.
I get that, yeah.
It makes you feel like you can't trust your own mind. Are some people just immune to this? Like, if I have a really sharp memory, am I safe?
It's a totally valid fear, but the research points to a very humbling truth. No one is immune. There's a fascinating study that looked at people with highly superior autobiographical memory.
Oh, I've heard of that. Those are individuals with a rare condition that allows them to recall almost every day of their lives in astonishing detail.
Exactly. They can tell you what the weather was on a random Tuesday 20 years ago.
So you would assume their mental video cameras are basically recording in 4K.
You would, yeah. But the study found that even these elite rememberers are completely susceptible to false memories in lab settings. They fell for the word lists. They incorporated misleading suggestions into their recall.
That's crazy.
And frankly, this is a deeply reassuring finding. It proves that reconstructive malleability is a normal, fundamental feature of human episodic memory. Falling for a false memory is not a bug. It is not a sign of a broken mind, low intelligence, or cognitive decline. It's just a byproduct of how the human brain processes reality.
So we aren't broken, we're just human. But we also can't just walk around defenseless, constantly overwriting our pasts and absorbing fake news without any way to stop it.
Right, of course not.
What are the guardrails? How do we protect the integrity of our memory?
Well, the best defense is awareness, specifically through warnings. A major review showed that explicitly warning people about misinformation, even after they have been exposed to it, significantly reduces their susceptibility.
But how does a simple warning actually combat a biological process like reconsolidation? What is a heads up actually doing to the brain?
It changes a neurological mechanism called cortical reinstatement.
Cortical reinstatement, okay.
Yeah, memories aren't stored in a single neat little box in your brain. They are distributed. The visual details are in the visual cortex, the emotional weight is in the amygdala, and so on.
This is all spread out.
Exactly. When you remember something, your brain has to coordinate all those regions to fire together again. It's reinstating the original neural pattern. And researchers found that pre-warnings and post-warnings change the dynamics of how the brain pulls that data back up.
It changes the search algorithm.
Exactly. When you are warned that you might encounter misinformation, your brain shifts into a highly analytical retrieval mode. Instead of just accepting the gist and lazily filling in the blanks, it forces a stricter review of the data. You engage in metacognitive source checking.
Metacognitive source checking, meaning I am actively thinking about my own thinking. I'm forcing the brain to pause the internal search engine and ask, wait, where did I actually hear that?
You are consciously searching for the receipt. By taking a beat to ask yourself, did I see that with my own eyes, or did I read it in a heated comment section, you disrupt the automatic reconstruction process. Warnings and active source checking lower false alarms dramatically.
It won't make your memory infallible, but it puts your brain on high alert.
Exactly, creating a buffer against misleading suggestions.
It's about building better cognitive habits then. Taking that extra millisecond to audit the source before you file it away as a permanent truth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the takeaway here is incredibly profound. Because our memories can bend, and because they're constantly being reconstructed from bits and pieces of the present, it means our very identities are shaped by narratives.
That's deep.
And those narratives might be completely real in their emotional impact, but they may be incomplete or even totally inaccurate, in fact.
It's a fundamental shift in how we view ourselves.
Yeah.
If my memories are just stories I'm constantly editing, the healthiest response isn't paranoia. It's humility.
Right.
It's having a lot more compassion when you're revisiting those old stories. When you're at that dinner table and your partner swears it was sunny and you swear it was raining, neither of you is necessarily lying.
No, you are both just accessing different reconstructions based on different semantic gists.
Exactly.
Precisely. Understanding this allows us to practice better questioning and better evidence habits in our daily lives. But there's another fascinating and perhaps slightly unsettling implication to mull over. If our memories are constantly being rewritten by the questions we are asked and the information we are exposed to later, what does that mean for something as critical as the justice system?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If eyewitness testimony is basically a Wikipedia page edited by police questioning, media coverage, and the passage of time, we have to seriously reckon with how many outcomes and how many lives have been decided by a cognitive glitch disguised as absolute certainty.
That is a staggering thought to leave on. The idea that the most convincing witness in a courtroom might just be a brain that did a really good job of conceptually elaborating a false suggestion. Like, comment, and subscribe to hear more My Mind MashUps deep dives.
We love hearing how these topics reshape how you view the world.
Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective could shape our next deep dive.
And the next time you find yourself absolutely fiercely certain about a detail from your past, just take a breath, look for the source receipt, and remember that your brain is a brilliant storyteller, not a security camera.
Find My Mind MashUps everywhere you listen. Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Casts, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube. Until next time, keep questioning the narrative and be kind to your own mind.